Hello YouTube. Today, as requested by many on the channel, I'm going to review the bridge by Barbell Medicine. So, to start with, this program is clearly a powerlifting program, meaning that it is focused on the main three lifts that they have to be very good at, the squat, bench, and deadlift. It's not explicitly said, that being said, it is clearly expressed in the program that it's for strength training. So at no point does it boast any type of hypertrophy benefits. Of course, when you get stronger, you get bigger to a point, but there are differences between strength programs and hypertrophy programs. And you're going to see that as I review it. So please keep that in mind. I am doing that review because a lot of people are going to end up doing powerlifting programs when in reality what they would want is becoming bigger. They don't really care about getting stronger. And I want to be able to review powerlifting programs because they tend to be the most popular on YouTube Fitness. So it was created by Jordan Feigenbaum and Austin Baraki. They're both from Barbell Medicine. I know them both. I know their work a little bit. I do know that they are very respected on YouTube Fitness. They know what they're talking about. And the bridge was mainly made popular by Thrall, who is one of the main channels I started following way back when I just started lifting. And he taught me a ton. He's one of the channels that I actually owe a lot to because he taught me proper form, technique, etc. So, I'm going to dive into that review. This is an RP-based program, and it is designed for people who want to transition between beginner level and intermediate. Right now, I need to say that this is already extremely smart. It was even smaller when it came out years ago. The reason why is because a lot of people, even when they run good novice programs, they have a tough time transitioning into what being an intermediate is. And you might ask yourself why. There shouldn't be that much of a difference. Well, there is if you base your training on programs you get off of the web. Because for the most part, what novice programs are they're very minimalist. They're relatively high frequency, high intensity, and low volume. Most intermediate programs are relatively low frequency, high volume, and moderate to high intensity. It's a shock that a lot of people go through, and it either burns them out because they're not able to handle that volume, they don't have the work capacity for that, or it stops being interesting for them because they're so used to the high intensity and the 45-minute sessions that when you ask them to actually do an hour and 30 minutes for a training, they lose the fire. So there was a need for a transition, there was a need for a bridge. This is why the bridge was created. For me, it shows also that if there is a need for that, there is an issue with novice programs, because you shouldn't need something to transition you into something with volume. It should already be in the novice program. Of course, novices will not have the ability and the recovery to handle a ton of volume, but you should accommodate them to that and maybe keep them as novices for a little bit longer instead of making them make all of the strength gains and then they have to do something like this before they can actually take the next step and actually work on hypertrophy stuff when they do intermediate level training. But that's a discussion for another video. So we're going to talk about the bridge and the way the program is run. I am going to focus mainly on the exercise selection and the way it is programmed within a day and within the week. I am not going to talk too much about the way they program the mesocycle because it is an 8 weeks program. And it varies from low stress to medium stress to high stress. And the way the RPEs are manipulated is, of course, RPE. They're going to tell you RPE 7, RPE 8. You will see also that even though the lifts don't change, the number of reps might change and the number of sets as well. So the intensity is manipulated with those two tools. And as they say, it is 100% focused on the bench, squat, and deadlift. You're going to see why it's an issue for hypertrophy. All right, let's get right into it. So, for the bridge, and the program will be in the description, but the program is fairly simple, as it should be. You will start on day one with squats, and they say with a belt. if you're a powerlifter, you should use a belt because belts for the vast majority of the population are going to add weight on the bar. The goal of powerlifting is to lift the most weight. Use a belt. So they're going to tell you to use a belt. You do one set of 5 reps at RPE 6, and then you repeat that same set with RPE 7 and then RPE 8. Right? This is going to be something that is considered low stress for that program. What I personally like is that they're going to have you do a rep range that you're most likely very used to because it's 5 reps, and the vast majority of people started with 3x5 or 5x5. So this is going to be easy. It is going to introduce something new though, because you're not going to be doing 3 reps at the same intensity, which is, as I explained in my 3x5 video, not the best. The intensity evolves through the RPEs. So you can either consider that you're getting warm-up sets leading to a top set, or that you're ingraining quality volume within an intensity window that is actually quite beneficial. After that, you're going to be doing close grip bench. The close grip bench is going to be one set of 4 reps. In my opinion, it's not the best rep range for that. I like 6 to 10 reps. But when it comes to compound movements and variations of compounds where you can go low reps, I like the bench the most, especially a close grip, because it's safe on the shoulders. So you will be able to grind certain reps, and with the close grip, there's no way around it. If you fail, it's your triceps who are going to fail and the bar is just going to come down. You won't be able to really flare the elbows to cheat. So I like that. I also like the fact that they're going to introduce a bunch of new lifting variations that you're most likely never touched before. Because if you just are coming out of a novice program, you did bench, squat, deadlift, overhead press, maybe some rows, maybe some pull-ups. So all of the variations of the main lifts are new. And when the variation is new, you need to start it with something easy. Here, it is going to be 4 reps and they're going to push it to RPE 9. But it's on something that will not be traumatizing, meaning that it's not a heavy pull. It's not something that could potentially lead to serious injury if you fail. So I sort of like that. After that, you follow it up with a rack pull, mid shin. I personally like to do mine higher, below the kneecap, but whatever floats their boat. This is of course going to carry over more to the deadlift, because it's closer in specificity. The higher the block is, the further away it is from specificity, the less of a hip hinge. And when you go above the kneecap, it's not even a hip hinge anymore. It doesn't carry over to the deadlift. So they have you do that for one set of 7 reps, which is I think a good rep range for that type of lift. It's a dead stop, so that's going to allow you to always reset and focus on the form. And you're going to push that to RPE 8, which is a good intensity for that. On that day, you got 15 total reps on squat, you got 12 total reps on the close grip, and you got 21 total reps on the rack pull. You got more work on hip hinge, most likely with more weight too, than you did for knee flexion, which is good for the health of your knees. And you got some horizontal press volume in, even though it wasn't a ton. We'll see later when it becomes a problem. After that, you get a day off, of course, and you do your second day. Your second day, you start with pose squats. And you might think, okay, I just did a day before the rest day, some squats with a belt, and now I'm doing pose squats again. Yes, but it doesn't, in this order, it's not too bad. Why? Because the pose squats are less taxing on the knees and the lower back. And because they come after the max effort squats, and they are done in a fashion where you do one set of 4 reps and you push it to an intensity of RPE 9, and they use RPEs here, they don't use intensity, but those two of course can be translated into one another. In this case, it's not going to put you in a hole because it's not a ton of volume. You're getting only 12 reps at a relevant intensity here. It's going to teach you more of the technique of the squat, and most likely because it's your first time doing pose squat, you're also going to realize how different the lifts are and how much bouncing out of a squat really helps, but also how more technically sound you will become once you master the pose squats. I've personally found that in terms of posed lifts, the post squat is the best out of the bunch, because once you're able to take a weight to complete depth and you're able to push it up, it builds a lot of comfort and a sense of confidence in you, because you know that it translates into your normal squat. It's going to teach you how to stay with the lift and not panic if you don't shoot out of the hole. After that, you do press, which is an overhead press with a belt, and you do one set of 5 reps. You are going to grind that to your RPE 8. It's total 15 reps. It's not super low for the overhead press, especially because of the intensity. It's still on the low side. And when you consider that it's the only vertical press you're going to be doing, it is definitely on the low side. After that, you do barbell rows, one set of 8 reps. I like the rep range. I like that this is the highest rep range in the entire program. Rows, you really don't want to go lower than 6 because you're just going to end up jerking the bar. You're not going to use the muscles of the back. And because it's a lift that requires a ton of robust flexibility in the hamstrings and lower back and glutes, it's something that you need to do in intensity windows that are not going to be super severe and super high. You're going to push that to RPE 8. And actually what they do here is a little bit different than from the rest. You do 2 sets at RPE 8. I don't know how doable that is. I get why they did that, because they want you to have more horizontal pull in your program, because this is the only pull with any amount of elbow flexion that is presented in the program. I'm not saying it's bad, I am saying that I would have much rather seen more vertical pulls instead of just doubling the top set on the barbell rows. After that, you do your GPP day. It's great. They put GPP in. Why is GPP so important? GPP is going to build work capacity. It's going to help you recover. It's key because out of what I said at the start of the video, a ton of people who try and transition into intermediate programs, they're not able to finish days because their work capacity is shot. They are either unable to go back to baseline because of their muscular endurance that's not the best, or their cardiovascular endurance just cannot follow. So that's good. And you see that the way they place the GPP is also quite smart, because they place it right after the 2 days where you squat. So you're going to need to do something to send some blood in those legs, but you don't want to do something that's too intensive, because the day afterwards you start with deadlift. Of course, it's a powerlifting program. There was bound to be some deadlift from the floor. But when you consider that most programs I review do not have deadlifts in them, this is actually quite refreshing. And it's one thing where I can really say that bodybuilding owes powerlifting in a sense. Pulls from the floor are super important. No matter what style you do, you need to do them. And I see too many bodybuilders who just don't. They don't even do pulls from blocks or anything. They don't even have that movement pattern in their arsenal. And in my opinion, this is the reason why the back in total, the area of the back and the muscles of the back are not super developed in natural bodybuilders. So for the deadlift, you do one set of 5. I love that rep range for deadlift. I think it's a great way to progress, especially when your frequency is going to be only once a week and you have a variation like the rack pull to complement it. You're going to see that you actually make tons of progress. If there is a lift that could really be strengthened without having to do tons of volume for it, and I'm talking volume here for strength, not size, it's the deadlift. So you're going to push that to RPE 8. It's going to be a comfortable 15 reps in total for tonnage. And again, this is the first week. I'm not going to do every single week, but this is the low stress week. So it's getting you into the mood for the program. After that, you do bench, posed. Posed bench is the second best posed lift. I love it. It's great for people who have shoulder pain. It's going to be a lifesaver for a lot of people. It's going to teach you how to groove the lift. I notice here that because this is posed, the only touch and go variation of the bench you're going to do is the close grip, which makes sense because powerlifters do posed rep on the bench. you do one set of 5 reps, and it's a total of 15 for a max RPE of 8. Which means that the total amount of reps you're going to get for horizontal presses is going to be 28 in the week. 27, I don't know how to count, 27. It's a little bit on the low side because you don't do any pull-ups, or you don't do any push-ups. This is all you get. And because it's a transition into intermediate, I guess it's fine. It's going to, you're still supposed to make progress off of that. But you'll see that in terms of hypertrophy, it has some issues. I'm going to start talking about the hypertrophy at the end when I'm done with the powerlifting skewed review of the program. And after that, tempo squat. So it's your third knee flexion of the week, and you're going to do 8 reps for an RPE of 8. And because tempo squat, it's a 303 tempo, they artificially heighten the intensity and the difficulty of the lift. You understand that this RPE 8 is not really an RPE 8. It's an RPE 8 for the tempo squats. And you end up with 24 tonnage. Okay, so as far as just looking at the program for what it is, when I look at the way it evolves throughout the weeks, and you go through the 8 weeks, this is something that should be, in terms of recovery, doable by pretty much everyone. You shouldn't get shoulder pain from this program. You might get some knee pains because there's a lot of squats. But of course, when you look at what powerlifting really is, the vast majority of the tonnage, meaning the points you're going to accumulate on powerlifting, come from the squat and the deadlift. They're lower body lifts, so you're going to have to train the lower body more often. That makes total sense. And because you can only do so much deadlift frequency, with the squats, a lot of people are going to end up doing tons of squats. I need to warn you right now, the squats has a lot of actual loading. It's not the easy peasy lift that a lot of people present to be. If you have super short legs, then maybe for you it is, but for a lot of people it's actually quite taxing. So this is why I'm saying that this amount of squats might be difficult, especially because it's all, from what I can tell, it's back squats from your style. So you're either going to do low bar or high bar 3 times a week. The deadlift frequency is manageable. So as far as that goes, it's fine. I'm not going to discuss the progression for strength because this is not a strength channel. But from what I see, the moderation of stress is actually fine. I don't see any problem with that. You progress in volume throughout the program because, as I said, they modify the RPEs and the reps. When you go higher than low stress, so you're going to accumulate tonnage over time. And basically what happens after the 8 weeks of cycle 1 is you take the new numbers that you now have because of the progression, you plug them in and you start again. So this is not a one-shot program. You can actually do that as long as you want. Even when you're an intermediate, if you want to keep progressing on lifts, you can do that. Now let's talk about hypertrophy. Now that I gave a fair assessment of the program for what it is. For hypertrophy, of course, this I would never recommend to anyone. Why? Look at the program. Look at the muscles you're working. The muscles that are not included in that program include long head of the triceps, traps, neck, real delt, medium delt, calves, certain areas of the back, like the mid traps, the lats. You're not working the lats. You're not doing any pull-ups. You're not working the biceps. And that's body parts that will get no work. Or they will get work through something else, but like belly, like the traps via deadlifts. A lot of them get zero work, like the long head of the tricep, the bicep, they get zero activation. Of course, this is a recipe for disaster, and this is the type of program that I used to follow when I was still not sure what I wanted to do. It's compound movements plus variations of compound movements. For powerlifting purposes, it's all good and fine, actually. For the most part, that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to manipulate volume and intensity, and you're going to progress in strength. For bodybuilding, this is not the way to go. It really is not. Because this is sending way too much tonnage on certain areas of the body. And the reason for that is because powerlifting trains the prime movers. You train the muscles that are going to move the lifts that you want to be good at. Why would a powerlifter train his calves? What is the point? They're not involved in the squat and the deadlift, almost for nothing. It's the same for the real delts. I mean, yeah, you'll get stabilization for the bench, but front delts and a stronger chest and presses, the triceps, are going to be more important. I say that to say that it's the reason why I understand why it's not included, but because it's not included, it's not a good program for hypertrophy. It's also lacking some types of movement pattern that I would like to see. There's no hip hinge where there's going to be a focus on the stretch for the hamstrings. There is no vertical pulls, that's vertical presses. Vertical pulls. Like pull-ups. Pull-ups are super important, they are key for bodybuilding to build those lats. The type of horizontal pull you're going to do is focus towards strength with the barbell row. You're going to do a ton of squats, which means you're going to have massive quads. A lot of natural bodybuilders have massive quads, but they don't have the rest. Like, bodybuilding is a lot of this. It's a lot of the front of the body that's important, right? You're going to end up, if you run this and you want to look good, you're going to end up with massive quads, most likely a decent chest, a thick posterior chain, so you're going to have big glutes, a big lower back, but then the rest is going to be non-existent. And I know because I went through that. I will eventually make a video where I show the pictures of what I looked like before I started being more attentive to my training, but you're going to neglect the body parts that make you aesthetic. You're not going to have much gains in your arms from that. You might make some tricep gains, but the biceps and the long head of the triceps, who make up the medius part of the arm, are not worked. And as far as I can tell, it's also going to be something that, because it's so focused on making you stronger, I can't really tell you that you can modify the program to make it more hypertrophy based, because there's no room. This is supposed to be ran by someone who's transitioning from novice to intermediate, but this is and should be reserved to people who want to make powerlifting their main pursuit, because it's specialized. This is specialization. It's basically leading you into the path of the bench squat and deadlift. There's nothing wrong with that. Understand that most novice programs already do that, and they do that under the guise of, oh, we're helping beginners build a base, and because the compound movements are the best to do that, then we're not really preaching for or the church of powerlifting. We're actually trying to just help people, and whatever they want to do after that is fine. The truth is, you can take a novice program, still base it around compound movements, but not make it so skewed towards the bench squat and deadlift. You can go in the program review playlist. I have a novice program in there if you're interested. So this is going to be a no for me if you want to do hypertrophy. The idea of basing a program around the compound movements is excellent. Doing variation of the compounds is excellent, but doing only that isn't. And because that's all that program is, then as a bodybuilder, I cannot recommend it to you if that's what you want. But if you want to run a cycle, a mesocycle or two, to get your strength up on compound movements and then use that strength to push tonnage when you go back to a bodybuilding program, then by all means do it. Because the flip side of what I just said is you will not be able to progress in strength as fast with a bodybuilding program. There's going to be more exercise selection, and because you're going to have so many muscle groups to work, you're going to be dispersed a bit. So your strength is not going to be as high and you're not going to progress as fast. But you're going to progress in a more harmonious way. Your body parts are all going to be developed.